Great, thank you, Yellow. Welcome everyone to our third session of Canvas People Power Academy. Thank you for your support and attendance still. We have 2 more sessions to go, today and on Thursday, when we will discuss fundraising and best way to fundraise for your cause. But for today, our topic is centered around rebellious women and who are leading this continuous fight for change while facing a backsliding of their rights and even terror and violence. And we wanted to share the stories of 3 brave and inspirational women and the way they were able to challenge the system with different actions and campaigns. So without further ado, I'm grateful that I can introduce to you Anahita Ahmadi, Iranian activist. We also have with us Somaya Faraki, human rights activist from Afghanistan, and Nika Kovac, human rights activist from Slovenia, and she's also the founder of 8 March Institute. So thank you, ladies, all for being here and supporting us. Let's start with Anahita. Anahita, you've been an activist since your teenage years, being part of the student movement, leading educational campaigns, fighting for human rights, LGBTQ rights, freedom of choice, and all that in a very restrictive environment. Also suffering consequences that made you go in exile for a few years. All that until September of last year, where the tragic death of Masha Amini happened. She was killed by morality police, and that's something why people stood up, and the uproar has now grown into this woman-led revolution against oppression. So could you please let us know about your experience and your participation in that struggle? Anahita, I can't hear you.
No, we cannot hear you. There is some problem with your sound.
Maybe you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe. Is it clear? My voice is clear. Okay. Very
Perfect.
good.
Perfect. Go ahead. Feel free to go ahead.
Very good. Thank you so much. I wanted to say hi to everybody that's here. Thank you for attending this session, and thank you, Yelena, for having me here. I want to jump straight to the last, actually, act of my people in Iran. First of all, I actually want to ask everybody, please pronounce Iran as Iran. We are in, in the United States, everybody say Iran. And my daughter just get offended. It's not Iran, it's Iran. Thank you so much for noticing that. And I wanted to say that you actually mentioned about my activism since I was teenage. It's actually started from when I was 7. I'm saying that because this is not a revolution or a human rights activism that started just in September. It has been going on forever for mostly women and all, men also in Iran. We are facing a very brutal regime. We are facing a very restricted life. As of yesterday, I was just thinking that what is the way to win this war, because it's a war. It's not about the weapon that makes it war, but it is really war because they have a very powerful army, and they are weaponized and they are willing to use it at their will. So how can we win even this war? So I want to say that, as a 7 years old, I was atheist, but I went to school. I was forced to study religious material. and also wear hijab. So that was my first time that I faced, you know, the reality of the country that I'm living in. And, you know, as I got older, I realized that something with me is different from other women. So now I know that I'm LGBTQ, but back then, like 40 years ago, it wasn't such a thing. So I suffered a lot from that as well. These were the, you know, the problem and the facts that I faced during my, you know, school age, and then go to middle school. I started to think that my friends around me don't know what is their rights, what they can, you know, they can believe or they can want other than school is dictating to them. So I started a, you know, training campaign for my friends. And then in high school, I started the campaign going against compulsory hijab, and I got arrested, I got detained. And then again, as you said, student movement and green movement, but my goal always was to get rid of this fascist and this brutal regime from the beginning. And in green movement, that was my last actually arrest, and it went so hard. After that, I had to, you know, I had to get out of the country. But with Mahsa Jina, we call it Jina Revolution because her real name in Kurdish is Jina. So Jina Revolution started by her killing, by her get killed by the regime. Like every other, you know, Iranian outside the country, first I started to have rallies in the city that I was living. So we had a lot of people coming, shouting with pictures and chanting and expressing, you know, their anger and their sadness about these events. After, you know, after 2 or 3 months, I was thinking that that shouldn't be enough, just rallying and going to the street. If people wanted to know about Iran, what's happening in Iran right now, they already know, because we did it for almost 2 months, 3 months. We have to do something more important. So we were in contact with people in Iran, with our people, with our friends. What do you need us to do? So that was one of the most important things, because we are here. It's true that I was fighting against the regime all my life, but now I'm out of the country, so I don't know what's going on there. So the most important thing was to hear their voices. When you are asking them, what do you want? They want us to deal with politicians here, because they don't want this politician outside the Iran deal with these mullahs. So I started to think that we should do something big, something bigger than the rallies. During a couple of months, I started to know people that they were active and they were willing to do something for their country and the freedom of women and men and, you know, human rights in Iran. So I started gather these people around. A lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas. But first of all, I was thinking that maybe we should have organized opposition. So we started a campaign asking all those, you know, known opposition to gather around and, you know, have a coalition. We gathered people, we recruit some people to make some videos, you know, some requests of these known opposition leaders. We spread it out, and we, you know, it got to them, and they sat, you know, finally they sat on the table and talk about, you know, getting work together. But after that, this was one of our goals, one of their small victories that we had. And these were all led by women, me and a couple of my friends. And all in the video also women, and they were asking very factual questions of the oppositions. Then we started to think we should do something at the state level with our politicians. So in every state that, you know, we were from, we started this campaign for Advocacy Day. In United States, Iranian don't go to politicians. They don't like it, or they don't know how to do that. So they never, put feet on a capital of, state or in DC. So we started to organize something, the Day of Advocacy for Iran. And it took us like 3 months for training, for gathering people, for talking points, for scheduling the meeting with politicians, for getting the press conference ready, and for getting the speakers ready. And it was a very big day in Texas, because that day in Capitol, you were hearing Persian speaking all over the building. And many of the people that we had the meeting with, they were very welcoming, and but they are politicians. I'm gonna get that to that point. It was a very, very successful day, because with the press conference, we were on the news, and more people got to know what are our goals. After that, the goal was, we were three women that we were working together. So after that, the goal was gather all these troops from all states to go to DC, to Washington, DC. So it took us a lot of time, again, a lot of planning, because we have a group of activists in DC that they wanted to have the press conference with us. We have a group of Iranian inside Iran that they wanted their voice to be heard. So we also gathered mostly women, 25 people, 23 women from 12 states. And we had campaigned for 5 days. We stayed there for 5 days, and we made a lot of meetings. We actually met a lot of people, and our goal was to discuss with them. First of all, we don't want anybody, any politician, any country, especially United States, to deal with mullahs, to release funds to these terrorists, and to go with any negotiation. Our voice was so loud and clear, and we prepared some folders with all the information and all the requests. So everywhere we go with this, we actually give these folders to staff member, or to Congress member, or to senators. And we also had a press conference there again. And we were also invited to White House to talk to National Security Council. And again, these were all our focus there. But as of 3 weeks ago, they did what they wanted to do. So they made a deal again with this regime, and it kind of was like downfall for me and for others, because we were fighting so hard not to let them release any money, because the money is their blood. They get the money so they can have more weapon and more people to to actually kill this revolution, to kill people, to execute people who are fighting for freedom. I was like down for a couple of days. It's up and down. It's so normal in the revolution. It's sinus wave. You go up. You have some some achievement, and then after that achievement, you feel very powerful. But with something like this, you feel like you're down you're down to whatever you're doing. So, but it's very important you get your hopes up again, and you remember what you were fighting for all my life. 46 years of my life I was fighting for this. So it's not the time to give up. But the main point that I was actually it brought to me again was that we have two important jobs. I see my people are getting hopeless and they are getting back to the way that they were living, it's like that it was a wave and they feel like, okay, it passed and we couldn't do that. Let's get back to that shitty life that we had before. So it's very important to remind them every day and maybe regular, that what they were fighting for and what is like to have democracy and freedom, because they don't know, they haven't been living in democratic country, and they don't know their rights as a civilian. They don't know their rights, as well as they don't know their duties. One of your duty as civilian is to get against, what is not right. So I'm backing again to my very first campaign, to talk to people, to learn from them and to teach them, to educate them about the things that they don't know, and learn from them about the things that you don't know. So I'm starting to have some campaign, having some meetings with inside, mostly with women about their rights, with LGBT groups, and with minorities in religious.
Thank you, Anahita. We will continue more on that later on, and you actually gave me a perfect way to introduce our next panelist, Somaya Fariti. She is also really focused on educational campaigns. So education is important in every situation, especially when you're fighting against such a brutal regime. And at the forefront of the demand for systematic change in Afghanistan is actually Somaya Faruqi. She has been named Global Champion for United Nations Education Cannot Wait, which is a global fund for education in crisis-impacted areas. Somaya is also the former captain of Afghan Girls Robotics Team, also known as Afghan Dreamers. They have done some remarkable work previously, and with the goal of expanding education in Afghanistan. Her teams continues to inspire students despite the actions of Taliban, who took over in 2021. So Somaya has been campaigning ever since to promote global awareness and actions that support women and girls' rights and access to education. So Somaya, please share with us more about your cause, your educational campaigns, and how are you able to conduct that in these conditions?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. So I remember when I was 6 or 7 years old, helping my father, who is a car mechanic, as the oldest child in the family. So I remember that with my tiny hands, I fixed some part of the car, and I left to go on my father's shop. But I was allowed to go only on Friday, which is the weekend of Afghanistan, and because the traditional society of my country, that there was no man around in my dad's shop on Friday. But I was obsessed with working with different machines, fixing things, and by amazing opportunity, I joined the Afghan Girls Robotics team, a team that we built robots to participate in the international competitions, as well as to solve our community problems. We built a lot of robots with many obstacles in Afghanistan, like a ventilator, a UVC robot, a mine detector, a drone, a wheat robot, a saffron robot. This was a dream for me and many of Afghan girls to become like a mechanical engineer, a software engineer, an electrical engineer. And before the Taliban, it was like my normal life and millions of Afghan girls' normal life. But everything changed on August 2021 when Taliban captured Afghanistan and thousands of people became refugees like me. And if you ask me now where my home is, I have no answer for that. And the situation get worse like on 21st of September 2021 when Taliban closed the girls' schools and put us like in a dark wheel and in a prison that is called home. Today, we as Afghan girls are not allowed to go to schools, universities, parks, gyms. We are not allowed to go out of the home without a male guardian, like our father, our brother, or the husband. And we are not allowed to work in national and international NGOs. Nowadays, millions of women, they are unemployed, and many are like forced to marry regardless of their age or consent. because the closure of like the girls' school is the beginning of the forced and underage marriages. Today marks exactly 645 days since the closure of the schools and 185 days since the closure of the universities. For me as a girl who myself experience like the power of the education, I cannot see what's right now happening inside my country. So me and my friends, my activist friends, decide to have a plan for the girls who are now inside Afghanistan. So we thought that the best way that we can now help the Afghan girls is to get them educated, to continue their education. Now that the schools are closed, that the universities are closed, the best way to help and support them is to have them, to make them to have the recorded lessons. So weekly or monthly, they come to our center and they get like the recorded lessons in flash drives and get back to their home, and they can like study in their own convenience. And also we have many online teachers, so whenever the students have like difficulties, they can join to the Zoom meeting and they can ask their questions. It has two big advantages. The first one, because the electricity limitation in Afghanistan, so having a flash drive with all the lessons is like the best way of the supporting girls right now. They can use it anytime in their laptop. And the second one, because the unreliable internet in Afghanistan, they cannot use like online sources. So having a flash drive in this hard time is like the best way that we can support these girls. So this is one way that my team, we support the Afghan girls, and another one is to have campaigns out of that. So at the first we had inside Afghanistan with the students, they started to protest and campaign inside Afghanistan, but because like the consequence was lashing, arresting, and we like don't want to risk those girls, those like students. So we started to have campaigns outside the Afghanistan in these countries, like in USA or in Europe. So with a group of other activists, we gather together like monthly. We have plans, and many of Afghans and like Iranians and Ukrainians, which we share the same like pain, and we came together and we to raise the awareness against like what the dictatorship looks like. But the key here is to work together and like to all of us to acknowledge that there is right now a war happening, a right against women, against justice, and against like human rights. So many people say that they stand in solidarity with Afghan girls and with other like girls like in Iran. So it's important to know that after 2 years of solidarity, nothing has been changed in Afghanistan, and still the doors of the schools and universities are closed. So let's skip the solidarity and get to like actions that they can boost the resistance of the people. The first one is that the international governments, they should consider the woman, and they should include the woman in their negotiations, because not the Taliban, not any other anti-woman society, they are not going to know what we as girls and as women need without exactly talking with ourselves. And the second way is to stop sending money to the Taliban and to the dictatorship, because by sending money, it means by helping them, they will be more proud of their work. And instead of sending money to the Taliban, they can fund this system to education system, at least by having like the centers that girls go and like continue their education. And the other thing is to stop interviewing the Taliban. They are not like a non-recognized group, is not like the Afghanistan representative. There are many other activists, civil societies that they can exactly tell the world that what's right now happening inside Afghanistan, not the Taliban. And the other governments, they should try to provide safe and equal education to refugees. In this like conflict in Afghanistan, thousands of people become refugees. And now their children is still, after 2 years in many countries, they do not have access to education yet. So now what's the difference between Afghanistan or the other countries that still Afghan girls do not, and even in other countries, the children do not have access to education? So they should work in this action as well. And I think we must all together work together to write a different future for our world, for the planet that we live in. A future where Afghan girls are free and they have their basic right to education. Iranians are free and they have their right to choose. Ukrainians are free and everyone is free. The dictatorship, like, get everything from us, our right, our home, our family, and our dignity, but not our hope. And the only way that we can fight against the dictatorship is feeling responsible and working together.
Thank you, Sumaya, for that inspiring message and sharing all the ways you're contributing. Right now, we're going to move to Nika Kovac. She's Slovenian activist and the founder of 8 March Institute, an organization that is confronting gender, economic, and social inequalities, as well as environmental issues. She has been leading successful campaigns. So just to mention a few, one is like Go Out and Vote, the idea to promote voter turnout for the last year's elections. Also, Slovenian Me Too movement, which ultimately led to change the laws pertaining to sexual consent. And I have to mention the campaign against the Water Act, which stopped her homeland's water from being privatized. So Nika, please share more about your work and what are the key elements of your organizing and these campaigns being successful.
Yeah, hi from my side. I will try to share the screen if you can allow me. Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
yes. Let me stop my screen sharing. We can go from here.
Okay.
Perfect.
I need to. I'm so bad with those stuff, so
no worries. Take your time.
Here. Okay. So you mentioned a lot of campaign which we won in my team, and the first lesson that I want to share with all of you is that I would never win them alone. You always need a team, and it is pretty cool if your team has some Powerpuff Girls superpowers, and I'm lucky that my team has it. And when I say that I am actually like that they have Powerpuff super skills, I actually mean it. This is my team. We are a group of people under 35. At the beginning, it was mostly girls. Now we have more and more boys, which is a little bit confusing. These are our photos in front of our National Assembly. We always do this funny pose because when we started with the organization...
Sorry to interrupt you, Nika. We don't see your slides. That's coming on in chat.
Your sharing is... I think that someone pressed on something. I will try again.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay, I think I will just speak without the PowerPoint. Let me try.
I can see that. Yeah, I
great.
can see the slides.
Okay, so I will start again and pretend that this embarrassing moment didn't happen. So basically, as I said, you cannot win anything alone. You always need a team, and it is pretty cool if your team has some Powerpuff skills. And I'm lucky that my team has them. You see the slides?
Yes, perfect slides.
Okay. So here is the photo of my team. We are a group of people under 35, and we always do this weird pose when we have a press conference, because at the beginning of our fight, right wing was saying that we are crazy radical feminists, and we decided that we will do something funny so that they will stop saying this. And when we firstly did it, they were a little bit confused, and now we do it all the time. So basically, I will speak about the campaign campaign, which was the biggest campaign, and it was the Go Out and Vote campaign, where we wanted to change authoritarian government, which we had in Slovenia for 2 years. The prime minister at that time, Janez Janša, was like attacking human rights. He was beating up the protesters. He took over the police, and he was attacking like human rights all the time. And as the biggest non-governmental organization with the biggest support at that moment, we decided that we will do a huge campaign, but in a different way. We decided that we will use a lot of glitters, a lot of fun, and a lot of content to prove the people that the change is possible. We decided that we will create small communities around subjects. So we always use merchandise to show people that they belong to someone. And we are really specialized in earrings in my organization. Every single person who wants an earring with a message of the campaign, these earrings were called Janez letter, because he didn't, Janez is the name of the prime minister, and he didn't pick up the letter from the court. So we said that people will get them if they send 10 messages to go out and vote. And people started to wear those earrings around the cities, and they become something fun and useful. So we always say that we need to find ways to show the people that they are belonging to different communities. And we always try to show this in different ways, but we always say we are just a group of like 15 people who are really young, who doesn't have a lot of support and money, so you need to do your own campaign. We really believe that people can do self-organized campaigns, so we give them ideas and we ask them if they can do creative stuff. So here is a photo of soup, which tiny letters, go out and vote. These are the handmade t-shirts which people wore, like these are their old t-shirts where we gave the sign. People started baking cakes with go out and vote message, and people also started to write letters to their neighbors about the importance of the voting. We always believe that we need to give them the tools to create something special, and then those tools can like basically show what is the message. Those bracelets were something that was really popular at that time, and in small villages and cities, people had workshops of that kind of bracelets, and they were creating content. But there is like something that we always say, all this sexy stuff are not good if you don't have the content. So when we were doing the Go Out and Vote campaign, we said party sucks, people don't like our politicians, we need to do something special, we need to do something different. So we wrote a law which deleted all the bad laws which our ex-prime minister accepted. We asked the people what were the laws that annoyed you the most, and we included their suggestions in a big law. People were signing the support for the law, and after the election campaign, we actually brought the signatures to the National Assembly and say to all the parties who were before in the oppositions that we want that this is the first law which will be accepted. Important it is that you talk about the content, that you spread the word about common values, and that you are really honest that politics can suck, but what it is important is that we don't have authoritarian state and that we have people who demand social rights. We were the first organization that Prime Minister wanted to forbid, so we prepared everything to become a flower movement, and we bought like thousands and thousands of flowers, and we said that we will bring them to every single community, give them to people and say flower is a symbol of the change, go out and vote. He didn't forbid us at the end because we had a lot of lawyers, but we still did the flower, giving away the flowers. And you know, the secret is to find something in your culture that people cannot say no to. We always say that we need a lot of volunteers, that we need people, even if people are a little bit strange, include them in your own campaigns, find a spot for them because every single person matters. It is important that you find time to talk with them and that you do like small celebrations of victories in between the campaign. And also important it is that you are present in the field. Every week, my team went with the bus to small cities, to small communities, to talk with the people. And in every community, we did something content-based. We did a small protest, a small action, something that locals wanted to say before the elections. And luckily, we managed to raise the political participation for 20%. A lot of young people came to the elections, and we managed to defeat Yanis Janša. So we managed to be an important player in changing the government. This is the photo which we did on the day of the elections. We are not a fan of nationalistic symbols in my team, but we said that we need to take them away from our authoritarian leader. So we took the flags, we went to the square, and we did this photo. And something which is really important, and which I always say, is don't be afraid to use different symbols. Don't be afraid to use language which the other side is using, and to fill it with your own content. After the elections, our final mobilization started. We wanted to force the opposition to vote for our law, the law for which we were collecting the signatures. The first photo was taken when it was possible that they won't vote for the law, and we wanted to get attention from the media. And the only thing we could do is to get this silly photo. But at the end, we succeeded. All the new government voted for our law, and it was the first law which was accepted. So we managed to delete 20 really bad laws which ex-government accepted. And now we have a new government. It is like a centrist neoliberal government. We still have problems with them, but way, way less of them. And we always say at the end, like, we continue to fight. What does it mean? Like in the activism, when you work, you will always lose. There is always a lot of shitty situations, but if you continue to fight, you will win at the end. And if you have a lot of colors and glitters on your way, it's quite useful.
Thank you, Nika. This was really amazing and inspiring. And I just would like to ask a question that's not related to the campaigns you just talked about, but I've noticed that you used anonymous testimonies in a couple of your campaigns, especially the ones for the Me Too movement. So and also the ones improving on living conditions and so on. So can you explain more about the impact you're actually hoping to achieve when you create these testimonies, and how important it is to connect movement with people, individuals' experiences?
So we started to collect testimonies when we were doing the Me Too campaign, because we really wanted that people hear different voices, from precarious people, from retired people, voices from all around the spectrum. And what we realized when we were fighting for the redefinition of law about rape, when we had Janša's government, which was like really like authoritarian government, was that politicians couldn't say no to stories. Like when we came to the National Assembly to present our law for redefinition of rape, we said these are the stories of women who were harassed, of women who were raped, and they need their own voice in the National Assembly, no matter the political party. So we managed to push the law through the National Assembly. Until then, we used personal testimonies in every single campaign, because we think that people identify with the stories, that if you speak about the abstract content, people don't understand what you are saying, you know, but if you tell the story of a person, people are usually good and want to help. So we do this all the time.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I would now like to open chat. Yellow, do we have some questions for our panelists at this moment?
Yes, maybe we can start with the first round of questions. Anahita, question for you. What is the situation in Iran with minorities? Is there a unity?
Thank you for the question. That's a very good question. Unfortunately, the situation in Iran is very terrorizing, and people are so scared because with the very minor, showing of being rebellious or being against the regime, they got detained and they got killed, they got executed. But through, some small core organizations, yes, they are united and they want the same thing. But as I was mentioned, it is not easy to go and just, you think that with voting we can do anything in Iran, for example. So these are all under the ground. All the work is under the ground. People having problem trusting each other because the regime hands are like, among us, exactly like us, dressed like us. They don't wear hijab. I heard from a friend inside Iran, a lady with my hair and blonde and with jacket and just some pants. She's military. She's IRGC, and you cannot know. So it's very difficult to trust people inside Iran, but they are united in their rights.
Thank you so much, Anahita. Yellow, any other questions?
Yes, of course, many questions in the chat. So Maya, do you educate girls in mental health? I think this is the important part of your work. Can you please let us know more about it?
Yes, we have like some psychologists also with us, but there is not that much demand for that. We tried a lot. It's important, especially in this situation. And the number of like suiciding in girls in Afghanistan are much more now. We try a lot in this section, but I don't know why after one session or two sessions, the students do not join again in the meetings. And every day, the number of the students who join to the mental health meetings, it become like lesser and lesser. It's maybe their like family problem or limitations to connect to the internet. But this issue is a bit hard because they don't want to join. We try to keep them motivated, but we are struggling with this issue.
Yeah, thank you, Sumaya. And I have one question that can be for Nika, also to other panelists, of course. Question is, how can the successful campaigns led by women influence and inspire future generation of activists and change makers? So Nika, maybe you can start and other panelists can add.
I think that like one really important thing is that you can show that politics and participation is a thing of everyone. Like me and my team, we always look more like a kids than grown-up people. We wear funny, colorful clothes and we laugh all the time. And I think that we gave a message to the people that even if you look like this, you can do something. And the interesting thing was that it's also sometimes good when we always say like boys in fancy clothes underestimate you because you can achieve much more. And I think that like so many girls in Slovenia said that now they want to fight and now they see that their voice matters. So I think that if you manage to show the people that your voice matters regardless of who you are, and that you can always do something to organize your own campaign, to mobilize people, to like write a Facebook status or like to just invite 5 people to go out and vote, that it's actually meaningful. This is the biggest like achievement that you can do as an organization or as a group of young women.
Thank you, Nika. Nahita, Somaya, do you have anything to add to this question?
Something to add to
Please
what
do.
Nika was saying. So it happened to me a lot. So many of the young girls in our, our group actually look us up. So my daughter is only 11 years old, and since Jina Revolution started, she has been so active. She actually created slides of, how we can go to World War III because of Iran, and the situation that maybe if we cannot handle it well, especially the West, we can go to third World War. And also she wanted to be a psychiatrist, but now she has decided to go to Harvard to study law to get into politician. And this is only one example of my daughter. So this is very important. And she always is proud of me as a rebellious woman. And she always says that my mom went to jail because she was rebellious. So that is very important for younger generation.
Thank you, Anahita. And while you are here, one more question for you, and then we can move to Samaya. How does the current movement in Iran learn from the past Persian liberation movements, and how has it grown or adapted from there? Yeah.
So if it is actually related to the last revolution in 1779, I wouldn't say that it was a liberation movement. It was definitely a revolution, but people were not educated about their rights and about the, they just wanted that regime gone. And they had a lot of help from, foreign countries, and they didn't know what do they want next. So now constitution in my
Okay, I think that we lost Anahita for a second. Maybe it's her internet.
Yeah,
Okay, so Maya, maybe you can jump in with some questions. There is a question for you. Has your flash drive license initiative faced any pushback from the Taliban or other groups committed to denying Afghan girls an education?
Fortunately, it's still not. It's what we are doing like for months and not yet. I think the problem with the Taliban is that they don't want to see girls and women out of the home, like in the society, but do not have the problem like for the girls to be at home and to study. And because this, we didn't like face this issue yet.
Thank you, Samaya. Yellow, if you allow, I've seen a good question for Nika in chat. So Nika, you have been very successful in engaging voters, particularly youth voters. So how is it different engaging youth from other demographics? And what strategies and tools have you used? And are there any tactics that didn't work or you would rework in the future?
Yeah, actually, like our secret to the success is like a combination of really young activists between 20 to 20, like 28, and people who are retired. So between 70 and 85, and they usually work together. And we use the same tactics for like all of them, because what we discovered is that if like we in the team feel that something is cringe, it is usually cringe. And if we feel that something sucks, it usually sucks. And important it is that you give people a sense of something nice, that they have a fun like while doing it. For example, like when we give away the flowers, people are really happy because they get a good feedback from the people. We also organize like nights of real life testimonies. So we involve people who are like connected with the topic of the campaign to tell their own stories in a really short format. This is something people love. We also did some weird stuff. We organized a walk around National Assembly with house plants, because we wanted to say this will be the only nature Slovenia will have, and it was forbidden to protest. And then police officers didn't know what to do with people carrying plants around. So like tactics which usually works are tactics when you try crazy stuff with a content message, and when people have fun. Old people will come, young people will come, and people of all genders will come.
Thank you, Nika. We have Anahita back. Yellow,
yes, welcome back, Anahita. Yeah, there is also more questions for you. For example, if we create underground parties in Iran, how can we get recognition from the institution outside of Iran, despite being anonymous because of security reasons?
Yes, exactly. So what they, sorry for my disconnection earlier, but that's the real issue, because, they cannot be known. So they have some ways, if they are groups in Iran, For example, I was a spokesperson to one of these groups that the core team is in Iran, so they actually come to the, to come to Twitter or whatever that, is mostly going on Twitter and monitor people. So they find the ones that they can trust. Like, for example, they trusted me and I can be their spokesperson. I don't know even them, I don't know them. I don't know their real name. I don't know who they are, but I am their voice. So whatever they want to, to do here outside Iran, I can do for them. So there are a lot of these groups in Iran that they can do the same or similar things. I don't know if that does answer the question.
Thank you, Anahita. Thank you.
Thank you. I see one more questions in Q&A for Somaya coming from So. So what would her idea, Somaya, we're talking about you, of impactful international solidarity with Afghanistan women and other marginalized communities be? What do you feel?
I think that the first way is to raise the awareness of what's going on, because there is like many people, for example, in my university, when I talk about Afghanistan, many people don't know still that there is a country that they are not allowed to go to school and they do not have their simplest human right. The first one is to raising the awareness, and the second one, many universities or schools, this is the simplest thing that they can do. They can provide like online classes for the girls who are in Afghanistan. Because the problem is with the education and not going to school and being in the society, but the problem is not with getting education at home. So our schools, our universities outside the Afghanistan, they can provide like classes for the girls who are inside the Afghanistan.
Thank you, Somaya. And Nika, I have one personal question for you, just coming from me. It's really a big deal also here in Serbia and everywhere, the importance of staying proactive. How to motivate people, how to actually avoid apathy, even if the things look fine at that moment, but always having in mind the danger of democracy backsliding and human rights being in danger. So how you manage to motivate that, taking into consideration you're in EU?
Yeah, I always say that like in every single campaign which you have, there is like a period of time of the first 4 weeks when you have a feeling that nothing is happening, that you are alone with your team and people are just passing by and not seeing it. And I think that like a huge strength is just being stubborn and insisting on the things. The second thing is that like you see yourself as someone who is like a controller of the government, of the politicians, and that you are the one who is speaking up the truth and also giving solutions. And the third thing is, which is really important for me and my team, is that like when you have a community around you, we have local groups in like all the regions in Slovenia. People are doing this in their free time. They become tired. They are fed up with stuff. And what we always do when we realize that people became like fed up is that we organize party. We organize a big picnic for them. We don't do anything connected with activism, but we just gather them in one place and like give them some music, food, and like time to laugh. And when they realize that they are part of something, they get the strength to keep going.
Thank you, Nika. Inspirational as always. So I'm going to use the 2 minutes we have left to ask you ladies for a call to action, to just a brief sentence about what would you like people to support, either campaign, your movement, social media, anything you believe we would like this. We have a group of more than 150 people here, so feel free to share. Somaya, let's start with you.
There is a campaign that me and my team are working on. It's called Hair Education Over Responsibility. So I want people to support this campaign because we are trying like to work with Muslim countries, because Muslim countries can have more effect on the Afghanistan, which is also they use their religion. So I want people to support this campaign.
Thank you, Nikita. I'll make sure to include that in all the emails we're going to send out after the session. Anahita, go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. I wanted to emphasize that whichever country that you are in and you're a citizen, what we ask you kindly to support us how is that go to your politicians and make it clear that the dictatorship is not the right, it shouldn't be running any countries. So funding these terrorists in any countries, including Iran, and negotiation with these terrorists anywhere, not just Iran, anywhere, with Taliban, with Iran, with any dictatorship going, on this agreement, going on having negotiations, funding them, releasing fund to them. We said it a lot, but it's very important that your politicians hear it from you, because you are the one who hires them, basically. Thank you.
Thank you, Anahita. Nika, go ahead, please.
I have really a concrete call to action. So I will put in the link to our Facebook page to a photo of President of Slovenian National Assembly. Tomorrow there is a voting if they will give free school lunches to the kids who live in poverty. And if you can write to her in a comment that international public will be really happy if they give kids who live in poverty free school lunches, we will be really, really happy, because she will take the thing more seriously. So here is the link, and if you comment and write this, just please give the poor kids free lunches, international public will be proud on you, we will be really happy.
Thank you, Anahita, so much for sharing. We will make sure to support that. And with this being said, give me a second to share my announcement for the last session of this year's Canvas People Power Academy. That's going to happen this Thursday, June 29th. Same time, you guys. We will talk about fundraising and the best ways you can fundraise for your movements, campaigns, actions. We will have amazing speakers, so please join us. I'm sure it's going to be really helpful for you. And also at the end of the last session, we will have a big announcement for the next year Canvas People Power Academy. So please stay tuned and looking forward to seeing everyone on Thursday. Thank you so much for attending once again. Thank you so much to our panelists and all of the Canvas team who helped put this together. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.